one of the things I could never figure out is like leaders, where did the concept of we own employees ever come from? It's such a crazy concept, right? It's, oh, my people are do the work that I am demanding they do. What the fuck? That's so crazy. It's, hey, guys, I've got a cool project over here, and I'm going to make it so sexy and so attractive that I'm going to attract you into it. And then I'm going to take really good care of you. And that always seems to work out better, right?
Welcome to Your Work Friends. I'm Francesca.
And I'm Mel.
We are breaking work down so you get ahead. Mel, how are you doing?
I am doing excellent. Thank you very much. It is like 70 degrees. I can't complain. How about you?
Listen, it's good. Mel, do you know where your water meter is?
No, I have no freaking clue. Like, it's somewhere outside of my house, but I just get those ads all the time about buying insurance in case the water pipe breaks from the street to your house.
Yeah. I came home from dropping off Enzo and the city was outside. They're flushing the fire hydrants, but they couldn't find our water meter. And so I was like, they asked, do you know where your water meter is? And I'm like,
if the city can't find it, what does that mean for you? You're just shit out of luck.
Yeah. Not instilling a lot of confidence.
How are you guys billing me?
Yeah.
Well, we had such an amazing conversation and just fun conversation with John Winsor, the author of Open Talent. For those of you who don't know John, he's an entrepreneur, he's a thought leader, and he's a global authority figure on the future of work. He's currently the executive in residence at Harvard Business School's Laboratory for Innovation Science at Harvard Lish. Founder and chairman of Open Assembly, and among many firsts, John founded Victor and Spoils in 2009, the world's first ad agency that sourced from the crowd. He is the co-author of Open Talent and also the author of Flipped, Spark, Beyond the Brand, and the co-author of Baked In. Just an all-around rad person doing pretty amazing things. How did you feel about this conversation?
Listen, John's one of those guys you just want to, can I just talk to you about life in general?
Truly. The insights from this episode, awesome. And we've been talking about Open Talent for years.
Well, if you don't know what Open Talent is in general, it's basically that organizations will move to having contract or gig-like work, either sourcing those gigs either internally in their organization, so you can move around and do more projects as opposed to being decked to one team and one boss for years and years and years, right? You're going to move around to different projects based on your skills, or they're going to get that talent externally. You and I have been working in this way, Mel, for the last 10 years. With Deloitte, we worked with this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We had what was called adaptive organizations, where you had a core of full-time folks that were really geared towards strat and relationship. And we hired out, right, when we needed to for the projects. We did this all the time. Mm-hmm. This is something that's going to become more and more the norm, especially with AI, especially as organizations are getting really focused on only having full-time workers that serve their core competence. Or, quite honestly, it makes sense financially for them to carry full-time. It has massive benefits to an organization. It has really interesting benefits to employees that want to live a portfolio type of life.
It's also a huge retention play for that core group if they can get it right internally.
Listen, if you're going to learn about this topic from anyone, you're going to want to learn about it from John. Not only has he lived this with Victor and Spoils, with Open Assembly, and with Harvard, he sees this all the time. Plus, he just gets life. Great person to learn from.
With you on that. Listen, get the book. Go to his website. We'll include all the socials here so you can follow him, because you absolutely should. And with that, here's John Winsor.
All right, John, we're here to talk about Open Talent.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. I loved reading this book. It actually brought me back to my Deloitte days, because and you mentioned Deloitte in the book multiple
A bunch.
times.
Yeah.
And you've lived this life with Victor and Spoils and Open Assembly. This has been your world.
It has been.
How would you define open talent?
Open talent is just an operating system where you have, it depends on the side of the situation though. From a company perspective, it's really relying on variable cost talent, right? From an individual side, it's having a portfolio career and having the confidence to do that. It's hard because I think we've all been taught at work there are all these rules and regulations and you can't step over the line and you might have to do something that breaks some kind of unsaid cultural rule or legal rule. Whereas when you're on your own, you got to pay attention to everything. You've got to be way more optimistic and way more aggressive. And that's a huge shift for a lot of people. It's really been difficult for people to shift. So for us, I use the term because I was trying to figure out a term that certainly born out of open source software. That to me was the first thing. But secondly, it's like, how do you think about open talent externally, building external talent clouds, and internally? Like, how do I create a system that allows everybody in the company to participate in a way that helps the company get to the outcomes they need, but yet gives the freedom to people for them to explore and be a part of advancing their career? Like they could be a software engineer and going, this stuff sucks. I want to be in marketing. What's the opportunity? Most people have to leave the organization to do that. And how do we create out internal talent marketplaces that allow for that exploration? And then my history is more around the idea of crowdsourcing ideas. And we built a bunch of stuff at Harvard with NASA around the Center of Excellence for Collaborative Innovation to solve really hard problems. Over and over again, we see that crowds always trump experts. And it's because of the adjacent knowledge and the ability to not be encumbered by tried and true ways of doing things that are very linear. It's very much throwing caution to the wind and trying new things. So those are the three legs to the open talent stool. And I tried to use a term that built off some history, played to the idea of open, and then laid some groundwork that you can use it anywhere.
Organizations, in my experience, they'll start with the external marketplace. Oh, we're going to start hiring folks from Open Assembly or Upwork or something like that. They'll do an external marketplace where they're trying to bring in folks to do project-based work or at the most basic level. One of the things that's been so interesting to me is, to your very good point, I find most organizations lag on the internal marketplace. My entire career has been in talent development. And it's so interesting that most organizations are sitting on such raw talent that career development is the number one thing people want more than pay year over year. And that mobility internally is such a key thing. Have you found the same thing, that most people feel like it's easier to go external than it is to queue that up internal? Did they do it at the same time? And why?
I love compound questions. No, it's great. I think that the issue really is the managerial level, and it's really talent hoarding. If you've got a really great team, you're like, I can't have them, instead of going, hey, you guys, in the context of my team, you guys are all hired guns. Like, you're working here because you want to on this team. You're working here because I need you. If I do something wrong, you might want to jump off the team. So why not start from the basis of just, hey, come if you want, leave if you want. If you need some help doing something else, totally fine. But if you're not passionate about it, you're like, life's way too short. But I think it's that change in the leadership and the bureaucracy and the allowing. One of the things I could never figure out is, like, leaders, where did the concept of we own employees ever come from? It's such a crazy concept, right? It's, my people are going to do the work that I am demanding they do. It's like, what the fuck? That's so crazy. It's, hey, guys, I've got a cool project over here, and I'm going to make it so sexy and so attractive that I'm going to attract you into it. And then I'm going to take really good care of you. And that always seems to work out better, right? Yeah. If you can say, hey, it's an honor to work with you guys. Come be a part of it. I'll make it really important for your career, for you as an individual, instead of saying, you got to be here at this time, and these are the requirements, and blah, 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 blah. I think it's the old white man issue in culture, right? I think that's what happened over COVID. And I think that's why there's been some push to return to office, is that, like, old white guys sit in a corner office all by themselves. They've judged their importance and their identity on how many people were in the cubicles outside their office. And sorry, it doesn't work that way anymore. People do great work all over the world, and you just want the best talent. So that's a shift, right? Do I want to control the talent? Because if you want to control the talent, you are not going to get the best talent.
No.
Or do I want to work with the best talent? And like, how do I do that? How can I be curious? How can I get people engaged?
Yeah. It also reminds me of just something that I read in the book. Mel and I both, sorry, Mel, not to out you. Rowan, it's fine. We're both a bunch of woo-woos. And one of the things that you talked about in the book was abundance and this idea of abundance.
I know.
It's so funny because more and more I'm just like, oh shit, it's everywhere. Woo-woo is everywhere.
Ezra Klein's new book, right?
Yes. I mean, which is fantastic. And I agree. I feel like there's been this model of scarcity. This is mine. This is my piece of the pie. I'm going to piss for everything. So I protect my territory. No, you can't have this talent, even if it's in the same company versus
even if they aren't doing anything right now.
It's so selfish. It's so selfish.
It is. It is. And moving into that kind of abundance mindset is a really interesting flip around. There's enough great work to go around. There's enough currency from a leadership perspective to go around. The other thing that I was always so surprised by, as someone running a team, there are always times where it's way cheaper to contract that out or bring in somebody for a smaller period of time, or you can be the best planner and still have these, oh shit moments. We need Steph Ogg here, or we need someone to take this on. So interesting that even in the most numbers driven organizations that they don't get the efficiency play and a budget play, it's a slam dunk.
Totally. I think you're really hitting into something. It is a scarcity mindset, but I can't, and maybe I'm trying to defend the old white guys being an old white guy. But I think what's happened is the whole world was set up for white guys to be managers, right? You go to Harvard Business School where I work and you get your degree and you have a system and you have a process. And then you go to a big company like a Deloitte and then they have a process and a system, and anything that's variance outside that system just doesn't work. But one of the problems so many companies are having is that mindset is a vestige of an industrial age that, and truly you think about Drucker's work or even more modern thinkers like Jim Collins' work, the philosophy is a scarce philosophy because the raw materials, the talent, it was scarce. You didn't know where to get it. Education was really scarce, but I have to hire from an Ivy League school because the Ivy League business school education is way better than anything else. And not so much anymore. It's like, I got to get this raw material from somewhere because there's only one place in the world to get it and it's really limited. Probably not that way anymore. And now that we're in this digital age where there's much, much more abundance, I think we're going to see that completely accelerate with AI. Is that we don't have to think that way anymore, but it's a vestige. One of the things we talked for a second about the Ezra Klein book, and one of the things I found so interesting is he really takes on kind of democratic cities that have created scarcity through bureaucracy around housing. And I noticed it here in Boulder. One of the things that's really interesting is, Boulder's become way bigger than it was. And it's a bummer. And for all of us, you guys live in Portland, right? For those of us that are cities that are run by more liberal cities, one of the problems is we've had this kind of, let's shut the gate after we're here. And so one of the things that's happened, which I didn't really understand, and I really resonated with that Ezra Klein, like abundance idea, was that Boulder's become outrageously expensive. And one of the reasons is that even on the fringes of town, like way out in town, there's still a 3-story limit to buildings. And if you could take a building and build a 5-story building instead of a 3-story building, all of a sudden it makes economic sense to do low-income housing. But at a 3-story building, you can't cost it out to do that. And so by having this, we got to make the place beautiful. We've got to make sure this is a scarce resource. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and there's not enough pie to go around. And I think that same thing applies inside companies that over decades have had this kind of scarce commodity. Even in the beginning of the digital age, I still have this vestige of, I got to get rid of some of the photos on my phone because there's just so much shitty. I took a picture to send to my wife on a piece of pizza. Do I really want that as a memory? But then I think about, like, in the IFD of abundance, is like, it doesn't cost me anything. I shouldn't worry about it. Like, why would I worry about that? Why would I sit around for 2 hours and select the photos on my phone that I need to throw out? The reason we do that is because at one time, there was only so much room on our computer or our phones to do it. And so we needed to continually manage our resources. And so I think we're just seeing this kind of natural evolution towards abundance.
Yeah. I think there needs to be that switch, right? And there's that opportunity for that switch towards abundance in corporations. I'm wondering what your perspective is on folks that are working right now, because I feel like there is also a scarcity feel. Consumer sentiment is in the tank. Trust in employers is in the tank. There is a fear that AI is going to take my job.
Absolutely.
What's the abundance lens for employees, or is there one?
Yeah, I think there is. I think, first of all, that you got to dissuade the scarce mindset of living beyond your means, right? I don't know about you guys, but the happiest people I know, doesn't matter where they are on the economic scale, if they are somehow having more income than they spend. It could be some dude living on a beach. He catches tons of fish and he does the whole like coconuts and he's totally happy, right? Yeah. So I think that's the thing, right? The kind of abundant mindset, there's more tomorrow. And I find that interestingly in places like Mexico or Indonesia or even Japan. I was just in Japan skiing and I just so surprised how people are just so gentle and so thoughtful. And I think it's because they have this abundance. They don't have to be on that bus, or even though the bus is small, there's abundant space to put another 2 or 3 people in. Right. So it's just this really beautiful sense of it's all going to be okay. But it's hard if you've got a huge mortgage and, you're stressed and you buy into all this stress. I don't know. I think that's part of it is refactoring things. I'm teaching some stuff at Harvard, but I'm teaching a class at Denver University and on freelance. And because my assumption is that we're all going to have portfolio jobs. You guys do, I do. That's just the future, right? It's just what we do. But how do we train these kids to do it? And so it's like a one-day sprint, but one of my really odd takeaways is there's all these rules and regulations around AI. So I decided it's going to be a class about using AI to create a class about AI. And the kids are going to be in charge of designing a class with AI about the best way to teach kids about AI. Does that make sense? So I only want to do it because I want to poke the bear. There's lots of 20-year-old professors in there for 20 years. They use the same syllabus. And I want the kids to so rock new kinds of syllabuses and say, oh, this took me 10 minutes to do. Or, I cranked this out in a half an hour. And I want to be open about it. I want to be like, the next time a professor tells you not to use AI, use AI. Sure to use AI. Because this is the future. This is what we need to learn. We all need to learn this. It's a new skill we got to learn. And we got to look at it abundantly. Try to be creative about it.
I love where this is going because I'm a huge believer in open talent concept. I think as someone who's worked in talent my whole career and then worked in talent acquisition, and you see the talent that comes into an organization, you also see when it leaves and you're like, what happened to that guy? He was awesome. And I think a lot of it is like that lack of opportunity, as you said, like things can get stale or they might have a leader who's holding on to them for dear life, right? But they're not really thinking about the employee and what they need to feel purpose and meaning in the work that they do. So I love this concept and really believe in it. I also think there's a huge opportunity to unbreak innovation within an organization, because what keeps me up at night is how much innovation is lost because we don't have this type of model. When you think about who didn't we tap into to find like hot Cheetos?
No. It's funny because I just was on a conversation yesterday with a consulting company that won't be named.
Does it rhyme with Beloit?
I'm yeah. Just joking.
That's a good guess, but I can't confirm or deny. And there was a new senior person and we were having a conversation and I was like, how's it going? And I don't know him. Like, how's it going? Onboarding's been like 6 weeks and I'm getting there and I got another 5 weeks and I'll talk to you in 6 or 7 weeks about this project that we were supposed to start like 8 months ago. And I was like, I don't know if I'll be around then, but try my phone. And if I'm up for something, then great. But good luck with that onboarding. I'm glad you're going to know everything about the family history of the organization and what they were doing back in the 1800s.
Exciting stuff.
Exciting stuff. Really relevant to how you do your job.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm really excited about where your work is headed. One of the things that you talked about was moving away from hierarchies to networks. I love that because I think about the silos and all the dollars lost on redundant work that happens across organizations. But you have those organizations that are just holding on to this so tight.
Yeah.
Like, this is how it works. How do organizations who are so used to this hierarchical structure, How do they even start to begin to make that shift so this works for them?
If you figure that, will you let me know?
Yeah. What's one small step they can take to like test and learn?
It starts with an open dialogue, right? And unfortunately, like the things that I see, I don't know if you guys see it, but the bottom's just begging for this, right? Like Gen Z, folks trying to be more flexible. And the very top is really focused on the outcomes, and it goes beyond the sea level and gets dropped into some bureaucracy, and everybody starts following the rules. And it's just crazy. It's just really crazy. I think, especially with AI, for those leaders that are more curious, they're just going to go around the bureaucracy, right? They're just going to go, I'm going to take some smart people, give them some AI tools, go build something, blow up the bureaucracy, right? We did a case study recently on Coursera, and so they have a really amazing CEO, and he's trying to figure out how to push things with AI. And one of the examples he used, his team came up with, right? And one of the examples was when you have a course and you want to translate it into 20 different languages, right? So 20 courses, 20 different languages. It was 12 weeks and $10,000 per translation. Yeah. And so that's $4 million. So somebody on his team said, I think I can do this in ChatGPT. And now the system costs them $40 per translation and takes about 3 hours to do.
I love that.
With the fact checking and somebody leaning into it. So it saved them, what is that, $800 or something like that. It's such a radical shift in cost. But to me, the really magical thing is that was a huge friction point. Certainly some people who are translators lost their jobs, and that's a real bummer. But for the rest of the organization, sitting around waiting 12 weeks for a translation, it just kills the organization. Like, I got a new course. Is it in Spanish? Damn, it's not in Spanish. It won't be in Spanish for 12 weeks. I'm off to the next thing.
But it's also like thinking about those translators and how do you continue to use them to be that human checkpoint for AI, right? Like, how do you take that group of people and use them elsewhere?
I think some of it has to be mandated. I was at this, Eric von Hippel's this crazy, really amazing guy that in his 80s at MIT, works on user innovation. And Charlie Shee's a guy from Harvard. We had this round table and we were talking about innovation. And so Charlie told this story, which just totally blew my mind. The port of LA, the biggest port in America, 10,000 workers, all union longshoremen, just had a strike last year. What they didn't resolve in the strike was automation. That's still on the table. They're still arguing about it. It takes 5 minutes to load a container, once the truck pulls up, a container onto a ship, right? So 10,000 people, 5 minutes to get the work done, organized, but very disorganized. Then he showed a picture of a port in Shenzhen in China, 4 times as big. It takes 10 seconds, not 5 minutes, but 10 seconds to put a container on a ship. 4 times as big. Guess how many employees works at the dock?
200.
0.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 0. It's all automated. It's all powered by hydro. There are like 25 people sitting in a control tower.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the core crew.
Yeah.
But nobody is down near the ships. It's all automated. And Charlie's point is a really good point. We're sitting here fighting about people holding on to legacy jobs, saying, my grandfather was a longshoreman, my dad was a longshoreman, I deserve to be a longshoreman. And in China, their point is, sorry, technology to replace that. Here's 3 training modules or 3 different training paths you can do, but you don't have a job as a longshoreman anymore. That is no longer a job that you have. And I know that we get into this weird place, especially in the US, on like self-determination and choice and things like that. But unfortunately, we can decide to change the type of employment that we have and mandate it, or the market's going to decide for us. And I would suggest that the turn of the last century, there are probably a lot of buggy whip manufacturers and people that made buggy whips that were really good, but I don't know too many buggy whip manufacturers anymore that are around, and a lot of people got displaced, but that's just the way it goes.
What are those folks that used to walk around to light the lanterns or to wake people up in the morning? That job went away too. I feel like in every generation, there's that shift. It's great that legacy existed in some of these jobs with your family, and there's something really special about that when you think about it. But at the same time, it's, did you want to do this job because of that or because it's what you really wanted? If now that you have the opportunity to think about something else you could maybe do, What does that look like for you?
What do you need to pay attention to, right?
Mm.
Do you guys remember in the book, there's that great picture of a New York street scene that on one side, it's in 1903. There are all horses in one car. And then 10 years later, in 1913, there were all cars and one horse in 10 years. We're thinking that our progress is up going through the roof and we're changing so fast. But that would mean that our streets were all horses in 2015 and that they would be cars now. That would be like saying, oh, we had cars and now we have flying, right?
Yeah.
Autonomous.
Yeah.
And then if you consider that Tesla's been going since 2003, like this transition is not that fast. And you could say that, oh, isn't it sad for all the people that took care of the horses in the stables and the people that picked up the shit on streets? Some of those jobs weren't really great, but they needed to change. Sorry, we don't need your services shoveling shit. So it goes.
Here's my thing on that, though. China, for example, is offering retraining opportunities for people. So here are the 3 paths you can go on. I'm looking at organizations, and there are only 18% of organizations that are actively reskilling their people for new jobs.
And then beyond that, what skills are human skills and what skills are synthetic skills, right?
1,000%.
Right.
Or hybrid.
Or hybrid.
Or hybrid. Yeah.
My concern comes from whose responsibility is that to retrain those people? Is it government? Is it corporations? Because I don't see anyone taking up the reins there.
It's your responsibility, right? Unfortunately, our unfettered capitalism is all about maximizing profits or shareholder return in the very short run. And you can't think beyond the next quarter. So AI is a hot thing. Let's get rid of all these people and hire a bunch of AI people.
Yeah.
And not, oh, that's where it's going. Let's retrain a bunch of people. They've already committed to the company. It's going to save us a ton of money. Here are the people that can really do that. It challenges the core Western philosophy of self-determination, right? You should have trained yourself on AI 6 months ago. We're going to hire somebody that has 6 months worth of experience.
Yeah.
And I think we just need a little bit more of a collective mentality. There are pockets of companies that get it. And usually, in my mind, they're usually like singularly owned. They're owned by some maverick who doesn't really care that much. Yeah, I want to make more money. I want to do this, but I like Judy down in shipping. I'm going to take care of her. It's interesting, right? Because I would say, because Patagonia is always a really interesting case study.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people at Patagonia that were there way too long, but they just so added to the culture. There was this guy, and for I think like 20 years, he answered the phones way after like you needed a receptionist. But his name was Chipper Bro. And Chipper Bro remembered everybody's name. He remembered everything. You didn't go on hold. You talked to Chipper Bro. He's like, where are you going on your next surf trip, dude? Oh, yeah, I'd go here. Just like it made Patagonia who they are. Just that human connection. But I think what happens is if you have that kind of feeling, then in the same breath, Yvonne walked in one day and a long time ago, and 10% of the revenue was non-organic t-shirts. And he didn't like that idea. So he cut the t-shirt line and said, let's put the money that we're going to make here into subsidizing farmers to grow organic cotton. And then in 5 years, we can buy that back and start t-shirts again. And that's really bold. But if you're secure, knowing that you're going to have employment, you're part of it, even if you get let go in an honest, thoughtful way, then you're fine with it. But it's these kind of dark room, black box, oh, this division has to go, no rhyme or reason. It sometimes feels, oh, the CEO is not going to make his bonus unless he lops off 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work.
Agree.
You mentioned we have a very short window to start to get this right. So when you think about this, if you test this tomorrow, I'm thinking of the renegade we were just talking about. That's not going to pay attention to the rules and just let me try this out. For the renegade leaders out there who are like, yeah, I'm going to try this open talent model and like how that lines up with AI too and what we need to look at. What would you advise for them to do to dip their toe in this?
I think first you have to have a mental model, right? So you've got to have a thesis and you got to get agreement on the thesis. So Francesca, like you said, going from scarcity to abundance, I think that's the first thing, is saying the world's abundant. We have so many opportunities and we have to figure out how do we get to the opportunities we need to grow or to do whatever we want to accomplish. Above that, most companies even struggle with the idea of purpose. Like, why are you even in business besides making a few people rich? So understanding like what your purpose is, understanding that it's really an abundant mindset. But then after that, I think it's really getting focused on outcomes. What are the outcomes I need? And then what are the tasks we need to do to get to those outcomes? And then what are the skills we need? And we know that right now in the next few years, it's going to be AI 24/7. So how do we retrain people? How do we get people up to speed? How do we get the right talent in place? What I've noticed in leaders that get it, it's not that sensitivity and wavy grave. It's also even a more radical, I wouldn't say brutality, but at least honesty. So I was in a meeting in New York last week, and we had this big kind of AI training for this large company, and so the head person, that's the editor, and all her staff, they literally just blew off the owner, CEO, request to be there, and they flew to a concert because they had to cover it for the magazine. And they've refused to adopt AI and refused to do anything like that's cheating. Can't have AI write our articles. So we spent 5 hours working through some of this stuff, and the CEO looks around the room and is, looks like won't have a job on Monday, meaning the editor that decided to take her staff and do something else. To me, that was not a brutal move, but it was more of an acknowledgement that, hey, this is scary times. Thank you so much for committing your time and being here at my request. If you don't want to be here, it's totally fine. I get it. I don't have time to babysit. Sorry. Like, we got a lot of great things to do, and we're going to use technology, and we need to satisfy our customers. And our customers have a lot of friction in their lives, and we got to solve for that. And if you want to not do what's best by our customers, then that's great. There's a lot of other great things to do in the world. And I love that. I love the kind of just like certainty, because as much as it's a bummer for a few people, it shows the rest of the organization like, whoa, we're going for it. And there's not some like clandestine, non-talked about conversation in a non-transparent way, but if it's very transparent and very open. So that's the third part of the stool. What's my purpose? The abundant mindset, and then the ability to move fast and make great decisions.
And that story is so poignant because you hear that all the time when change happens, where someone really just is like fighting versus how can I lean into it? How can you reframe your mindset right now? Maybe be open to what's possible. It might have a positive effect for your experience here. Yeah.
I know. It's almost like we could never have an AI aggregate comments on our website, because somebody has to take the time and understand the nuance. Good luck with that.
I've done a lot of synthesis, and I will tell you, I am so glad AI exists to help with that now. How can someone listening today who's in that traditional space of wherever they are start to really think about how they can, what would they be as a freelancer, even while they're still within this assigned job? How can they start to test that for themselves of what that might look like, so that when things do change, they're ready for it?
Yeah, definitely do some side gigs.
Yeah.
Like moonlight, start right away. Doesn't even matter, right? Like the cost of failure is so low. Start a podcast. I don't mean to set up a bunch of compete with you. You guys are already rock.
It's all right.
You guys have already pierced through the stratosphere. But just go try some shit, right? Like, I think that's the sad thing, right? It's like when we're kids, the world's our oyster and we have so many possibilities. And somewhere along the way we forget we have to do all these things we have to do, and that's just total bullshit. We don't have to do them. We have these mental models that we feel so obligated to do things, and then for most people, we've had a lot of tragedy and we've gotten stung on some things. But I think back to our opening comments, this is the time for optimism. I think everybody has to grow into an optimist. I think pessimists are going to have a really difficult time, because the world's not A to B to C.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump right in with some rapid round questions for you.
Boom.
Typically, one-word answers are okay. We're not going to judge if you do that, but if you'd like to elaborate, please do. How's that sound?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, perfect. All right, it's 2030. What is work looking like?
Oh man, it's looking somewhere in Indonesia with your phone and waiting for the next set to come in as your agents do all the work for you.
Sounds nice, actually.
Sign me up.
Isn't it? What's one thing about corporate culture that you'd like to just see die already?
Bureaucracy.
Sometimes it's like turning a cruise ship to get things done.
Oh my God, it's horrible.
What's the greatest opportunity most organizations are missing out on right now?
Tapping into the people's passion, or not just their people's passion, but the passion of the culture. And what I mean by that is like the larger culture of customers and suppliers. And it's so sad that there's like us against them, inside, outside, all that stuff. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. All right, now we're going to get personal. Are you
Good.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What music are you listening to right now? What's on repeat on your playlist?
I'm a Discover Weekly guy
Oh,
on Spotify. And I love that because I love so much music, but the idea of just sitting down every Monday morning going, oh my God, a whole new playlist. Some weeks it's awesome. Some weeks it sucks. And the thing that kind of has been turning me out lately are these two guys, Hermanos Gutierrez, these guitar players. Anyway, they
okay.
get funky, Spanish, flamingo kind of thing. Anyway,
Oh, that's so nice. That's
top of
awesome.
mind. Yeah, top of mind.
Okay. Okay.
Expecting like Katy Perry or something?
No, I had no expectations. I do this because one, I'm interested. Like you, I like music from everywhere, and I love that DJ feature that they have on Spotify. Have you tried your
I don't
personal
even know
DJ
that.
yet?
No.
They have
I gotta
it.
do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm old school. Okay.
They throw in some of your favorites and some new stuff into the mix. That's good for road trips. Yeah. What are you reading right now? Reading could also be listening to a book.
I was just talking about an amazing book the other day that I've read a couple times and I just love it. It's called Perfume.
Oh,
And it's got the subtitle something creepy, The Smell of Death. It's all like 1400 or 1600s in France about a super smeller. Unfortunately, right now I'm like totally absorbed by just all. There's too much going on in the world. Although I have to tell you guys, somebody just sent me this great podcast. My wife and I both listened to it. It's called Fierce Intimacy.
oh,
It's really good. I was like,
okay.
yeah. It's like in the whole concept is like you have to fiercely fight for the relationship and you got to get in each other's face about it. You got to like total transparency.
I like that. Yeah, let's get in. Be in it. You're in it. Be in it.
Yeah, don't avoid it. So,
I love that. Okay. The perfume one is so interesting to me. Francesca and I talked about this when we went to Tuscany. You recommended the Santa Maria Novella perfumery place. It's just such an interesting history with perfume.
Oh my God. Yeah, and the whole super smeller thing and the people that they used to hire to do that. And it's so crazy.
That's so cool. What a cool history.
Yeah.
Who do you admire most?
Oh my God. That's a good question. My dad, for sure. My dad's still alive. He's a modern day Ernest Hemingway. Such stud. I would say there's a collection of people, right? I think that there are lots of people that inspire me for different reasons. Tinker's certainly one of them. Good friend, like we talked about, Francesca. My wife, Emily, she's definitely kept me going. Yeah. So
that's good stuff. We like to hear it. What's a piece of advice you would love to give to others because you didn't have it for yourself a long time ago?
There's a piece of advice that somebody gave me, and it was the best piece of advice for being a dad or being a parent. And I think it really applies to work too. It's a crazy story. So the guy told me this, and my wife at the time, Bridget, and we just adopted 2 kids from Russia, and we always hung out at this coffee shop. And this guy kind of looks like Albert Einstein. I used to have a one-man Albert Einstein show, Len, and he didn't have any kids. Kind of looked at our kids, and they were like 2 or 3, and looked at us and looked at the kids, and I have some parenting advice for you. He was like, oh no, Len, I don't know if I want to hear it. And he said that some mother had told him this, said, most parents, when kids do things that are outside the norm, they always say, be careful. But be careful creates all this fear. It's like, careful, you might hurt yourself. Be careful, that's too high. Be careful, that's too fast. So instead, just always say, pay attention. And so if your son or daughter says, I'm going to climb that tree, if you say, be careful, it's, should I or shouldn't I climb the tree? Instead of saying, pay attention, meaning go as high as you want, but pay attention to your inner feeling and how you're willing to explore. And when you're not feeling comfortable, come back down. It's all about you. And so that's something that was really magical for me as a dad, to allow my sons to explore. But it's also, I think, a really good thing to think about in work, right? And it's like, there's so much fear, especially around this new world of AI. And like, how do we be less careful and pay more attention.
I really love that shift in thinking.
It's crazy.
Just to pay
right?
attention. Yeah, what a shift. And it totally eliminates the fear out of things.
I know, right? It does.
Yeah.
One of the things I just love about AI, it's back to Einstein. It's that Einstein quote that says, if you gave me a problem in an hour to solve it, I spend 55 minutes on the problem or the question and 5 minutes on the solution. And I think somehow in the industrial age, we got so focused on the execution and the solution, right? And solving the problem properly. And what's so great is now the cost of execution is going to zero, but it's really the value of what's the problem you're trying to solve? How do you really define that in an interesting way?
It's an exciting time.
It is.
There's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. A time to pay attention.
It's time to pay attention, for sure. We loved having you here. We love the book, Open Talent, everybody. We appreciate you being with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Me as well. I really enjoyed it.
It's been such an honor.
This episode was produced, edited, and all things by us, myself, Mel Plutt, and Francesca Ranieri. Our music is by Pink Zebra. And if you loved this conversation and you want to contribute your thoughts with us, please do. You can visit us at yourworkfriends.com, but you can also join us over on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn community page, and we have the TikToks and Instagrams. So please join us in the socials. And if you like this and you've benefited from this episode and you think someone else can benefit from this episode, please rate and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. That helps keep us going.
Take care, friends.
Right. Bye, friends.
Bye, friend.